so glad things worked out the way they did.
I am too.
I heard your relief in your email.
Yeah, yeah. But there. Yeah, not having the temple as part of our circuit
That's a bummer.
is a bummer. But then I think they're going to be trying something for May in the Frostic School. That's apparently where the temple is right now. Yeah.
You turn it on.
This really hit me this morning. There's a woman who writes on Sunday all kinds of things that are happening in Pasadena, and especially for women.
Yeah, yeah.
And there was a Joan Chittister quote.
Oh, no way.
Which we just read that.
I feel like I've heard this quote. Yes.
It's a beautiful quote.
Oh my gosh, I should have used this in my sermon.
Isn't that great?
That's so good, because my sermon's all about resurrection.
Oh, there you go.
It's too late. But that's a really good quote.
Isn't that a
I
good one?
love
I read
it.
it and I was like, wow. Wow.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Hey Don, how you doing? Okay. Wow. All right, everybody. Well, I'm sure others will, filter in when they arrive. But I just thought it might be good to start with a prayer from Sister Joan. It's a very long prayer, so if you want to have the full prayer, I'll share it with you after, but I'm just going to read the closing prayer, or the closing section of the prayer. Please pray with me. Great God, give us the kind of faith in you that was the mainstay of those before us who followed you, from Galilee to Jerusalem doing good, raising the dead to life and singing Alleluia all the way. God of conscience, God of courage, give us whatever grace we need to work for the coming of the reign of God, now, here, and always. Amen. Well, good morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Should I move this closer? There we go. Keith, you hearing me all right? Okay. So, we are talking about Sister Joan's book, Scarred by Struggle, Transformed by Hope. Are you all here because you're reading the book and really enjoying it? Yeah. Okay. Has everyone finished the book? No? Okay, we're just doing it, week by week. Yeah, that's the way I read too. So, I thought it was good today to think about spiritual struggles, especially given the recent news about Cesar Chavez and just a lot of the things that we're wrestling with in our world, the instability, wars, what's happening in the White House right now. It's just all very distressing. And so I think we're going to go to our first question. We're going to get you all to interact with each other for a few moments. The question this morning, have you ever had a moment when your faith didn't make sense anymore? And if you're sitting next to your spouse, feel free to move and talk to someone else. But I'm going to invite you to share with the person near you for the next 30 to 45 seconds. Have you ever had a moment when your faith didn't make sense anymore? So we'll take about 10 more seconds. All right, everybody, let's come back together. I should have known with this group, once you start talking, you're just going to go. There's no shy people here, huh? So could I ask each of you just to share a word or a phrase that you heard in your conversation with the person next to you? Anyone willing to share a word or a phrase that came up?
Childhood.
Infertility.
Sometimes the disappointment that comes in church structure.
Yes.
Hi. My issue was my uncle who was divorced not being able to receive any sacraments.
Enough.
Mia said it's too soon.
Too soon. All right, perfect. Did anyone else have anything, or should we move on? I think we'll move on. So here's a question just to consider. You don't have to go to the person next to you, but I just want you, just as we're going through this presentation this morning, just to consider this question. Where do you feel that right now? Where do you feel that right now? In your life? In the world? In the church? Where do you feel that right now when it comes to that sense of your faith not making sense anymore? So, spiritual struggles are experiences of tension, conflict, or strain that center on what we hold sacred. I'm going to read it again. Spiritual struggles are experiences of tension, conflict, or strain that center on what we hold sacred. Which takes us to this quote from Joan Chittister in the book. God had become a question mark, not a certainty. Religious life had become cruel, not fulfilling. As I tried to pray, shaken, isolated, and in darkness, I could feel the dust of my soul under my tongue. My body went on living, but my soul had died in a darkness so thick I could not see through it. Does this experience sound familiar to anybody in the room? I know when I read this quote, I thought, oh, I've been in those moments before. It's so visceral the way that she captures it. So the question, obviously, is have you ever felt anything like that? The doubt, the grief, the anger, the silence, the loss. Here's another quote from her that I really like. Suddenly, without warning, I would find myself swimming in a sea of black, my arms and legs heavy and lifeless, tears in my eyes. The frustration of it all swept over me like waves on a beach, pulling me under, upending me in deep water, washing me out away from a firm emotional shore. Day after day, the struggle raged. So my question for all of us, and we still have the mic out there, what do your waves look like in your life at this moment? What do your waves look like? And it also could be something that we just keep thinking about as we go through the presentation, but I know that whenever I've done grief counseling with people, one of the things that we talk about is dosing your grief. Has anybody heard of this concept, dosing your grief? It's basically the way I liken it to the experience of being on the shoreline and walking out into the water and allowing the waves to wash over you And when you've had enough, you go back to the shore and you dry off. And then when you're ready to face it again, you go back out into the water. And so this idea of dosing, or allowing yourself to experience the grief like waves, that's how I describe grief. So I want to show us a clip. So Joan Chittister, in her book, takes us into the darkness, and Brene Brown asks us, what do we do when we're there? When we are afraid and don't know how to hold it. So I'm going to see if this video pops up. We practiced earlier, so this should work, but let's see. Yep. Okay.
Feeling vulnerable, imperfect, and afraid is human. It's when we lose our capacity to hold space for these struggles that we become dangerous. And it seemed to me that's one way to describe what is happening in our culture and our political life. We have no space to be honest about that, to be vulnerable, to be imperfect and afraid together. And it's become dangerous.
No, we don't, on a micro level as individuals, we're not our best selves in fear, and collectively we're certainly not our best selves when we're in fear. I'm thinking we've grown weary of that. I think we're sick of being afraid. And I think there's a growing silent majority of people who are really kind of thinking at a very basic human level, I don't want to spend my days like this. I don't want to spend every ounce of energy I have ducking and weaving.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where we'll go next, but I really believe with every fiber of my professional and personal self that we won't move forward without some honest conversations about who we are when we're in fear and what we're capable of doing to each other when we're afraid.
Right. It's not just that the things that go wrong for us are part of our wholeness, right? As you described, the vulnerability is what keeps us in. But also that what goes wrong for us is part of our gift to the world. It's what enables us to connect and be compassionate. And I mean, that's a lovely way to think about, the hard, possibly excruciating upside of the fact that so many of us are struggling and suffering right now.
I agree 100%. And I think it points to maybe one of the deepest paradoxes about vulnerability, which is when I meet you, vulnerability is the very first thing I try to find in you. And it's the very last thing I want to show you in me.
Mm.
Because it's the glue that holds connection together. It's all about our common humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And when we own our stories and we share our stories with one another and we see ourselves reflected back in the stories of people in our lives, we know we're not alone. And to me, that's the heart of wholeheartedness. It's the center of spirituality. To me, that's the nature of connection. To be able to see myself and hear myself and learn more about myself in the stories you tell about your experiences.
Had anyone seen that video before? Isn't that lovely? Yeah. So struggle is part of being human. And the question that I've been wrestling with this weekend is, what if doubt isn't the opposite of faith, but is part of it? What if doubt isn't the opposite of faith, but is part of it? Joan Chittister says, struggle is never done without cost. Real struggle marks us for life. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Chittister refuses sentimentality, and that challenges us. And I think the takeaway is this: not everything in us will be healed, but everything in us can be held. So the question here is, how has struggle marked you? Maybe it was something that you had to lose, something that changed you, something that you're still carrying. something that you've begun to heal? How has struggle marked you? So why don't we just take 30 seconds, just close our eyes, and why don't we just contemplate how has struggle marked us in our lives? Something we had to lose, something that changed us, something that we're still carrying, something that has begun to heal in our lives. How has struggle marked you? Feel free to open your eyes back up. And the next question that I want us to wrestle with is this. What if anger is not the opposite of faith, but is actually a form of it? What if anger is not the opposite of faith, but a form of it? So this is Maya Angelou. I'm going to do another video. Let's see if this works again. Okay. Hopefully there's no commercial at the start.
Have you been bitter as a political activist then?
No.
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 Why not?
Well, it is obvious that bitterness is like cancer. It eats upon the host. Anger is healthy, I think. I think anger is like fire. It burns out all the dross and all the stuff. And I think it's wise to show it, to be opposed to injustice at all times for anybody. I think that's wise. I think I know that as soon as I feel myself insulted, the person who has insulted me is the second to know. As soon as I know, I say, hey, stop, just a minute, come here. I beg your pardon. You won't do that to me. That is your affair. Don't put that poison on me. I will not have it. So that's much healthier. And fortunately, it is creative. And that thing which is creative has a productive result.
But what the 60s must have been like for anybody.
Isn't that good? Does anybody miss Maya? I think she's fantastic. We need voices like hers. All right, we're going to go back to the slideshow. Okay, so there's the question. What if anger is not the opposite of faith, but a form of it? Does anybody here agree with Maya that anger is healthy? But it just depends on how you show it, or how you display it, or how you process it, maybe? All right. So, spiritual struggle is a turning point. This is a takeaway from the book. It can lead toward deeper meaning, and it can also lead toward deeper despair. What we do with our anger determines the path. What do we think about that statement? So here's a picture of our world. A world in flux. We thought we were secure. We thought that progress would save us. We thought that the world would stabilize. But then, Holocaust, atomic threat, Vietnam, ethnic cleansing, systemic injustice. Any other things we could add to the list? Joan Chittister writes, "There is no such thing as a non-combatant in our world. We are all at risk." Did that line jump out at anyone else? It jumped out at me. There is no such thing as a non-combatant. That's a scary thought. So I want to show you guys another clip. Does anyone recognize who this is? I think you'll recognize once she starts talking. Even now, something in us keeps reaching. Another world is not only possible, she's on her way. On a quiet day, I can hear her breathing. I think Susan Russell has quoted this in some of her sermons. So let me see. I'm going to pull up the video. Let's see if I can do this again. There she is. Okay.
So standing here today, it's hard for me to say this, But the American way of life is simply not sustainable because it doesn't acknowledge that there is a world beyond America. But fortunately, power has a shelf life. When the time comes, maybe this mighty empire will, like others before it, overreach itself and implode from within. It looks as though structural cracks have already appeared. As the war against terror casts its net wider and wider, America's corporate heart is hemorrhaging. For all the endless, empty chatter about democracy, today the world is run by three of the most secretive institutions in the world: the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, and the World Trade Organization, all three of which in turn are dominated by the US. Their decisions are made in secret. The people who head them are appointed behind closed doors. Nobody really knows anything about them, their politics, their beliefs, their intentions. Nobody elected them. Nobody said they could make decisions on our behalf. A world run by a handful of greedy bankers and CEOs who nobody elected can't possibly last. Soviet-style communism failed not because it was intrinsically evil, but because it was flawed. It allowed too few people to usurp too much power. 21st century market capitalism, American style, will fail for the same reasons. Both are edifices constructed by the human intelligence, undone by human nature. The time has come, the walrus said. Perhaps things will become worse and then better. Perhaps there's a small God up in heaven readying herself for us. Another world is not only possible, she's on her way. Maybe many of us won't be here to greet her, but on a quiet day, if I listen very carefully, I can hear her breathing. Thank you.
Has anyone heard that before? I like her. Let's go back to the slideshow here. That's what I was worried about, the ads.
Wow,
They start
chorro,
without
¿eh?
even... Hold on.
Además, no pagas si no ganas.
Qué bien porque...
Apologies. YouTube, they're going to force you to watch those ads. All right, here we go. So here we are. We can't ignore spiritual struggle. I think that's one of the takeaways from Joan's book. People are asking today, where is God? Does my life matter? Can I trust anything anymore? And I think the question for each of us is, are we listening? Where is God? Does my life matter? Can I trust anything anymore? Before we go on, I want to pass the mic around one more time, and I just want to ask if there's anything that was stirred up in you through wrestling with these questions or with anything that was said in the previous video. Keith, do you have the microphone over there? Let's pass it around. So, was there anything that was triggered in you, seeing the previous video, seeing the Brene Brown video, anything that's percolating in you so far? Anything that's rising to the surface? Nothing yet? Oh yeah, we got one. Is it not on?
I think one of the things that I was thinking as I sat here is part of life as you age is that you learn that there's a lot of stuff you need to unlearn.
Thank you.
I believe in what happened now. We are on a small dot in a world who is destroying, and we cannot do anything. Yes, we can have faith on God and maybe there are a sun after all the storm. But what we can do, what happened now in the Middle East and destroying and everything. Today, each morning I read the news. Well, one time, laughing, we say, we buy a newspaper and a gun. Because after you finish reading the newspaper, you take and you shoot yourself. We make fun a lot in Europe in one moment during the Vietnam and after and after and after. And with the common sense, people say, well, okay, we buy the newspaper in the morning and we have a gun and it's over. It's so depressing, the situation, a lot of people see that.
So we're talking about existential despair.
Because we cannot do anything.
Thank you, Jose.
Well, yeah, I disagree. Because I feel that there is something we can all do together. I'm with the Interfaith Study Group, bringing Muslims, Jews, and Christians together to build kinship and get to know one another. And it's been very, very difficult. But one of the things that we did, in fact, you did it with Jonathan here, is we grieved together. And that brought us together in such a powerful way. And once you're grieving together, you're connecting with one another, and yes, you can move forward.
Thank you, John. Well said. Thank you both for sharing. So we're going to go on to one last clip. I think this is the last one. It is. Okay, good. All right. So anyone recognize who this is? Anyone heard of the author Bell Hooks? Okay, this is Bell Hooks. We're going to end with a video by her, which is a really good one. Let me just turn that off. Okay. All right. Let's go like this.
Welcome, Bell Hooks, to Word on Words. This book is called All About Love, New Visions.
Uh-oh. I just tried to turn it up. Hold on. Wow. Keith, you ever seen that happen?
Welcome, Bell Hooks, to Word on Words. This book is called All About Love, New Visions.
But when I'm talking about what do we teach?
Hold on.
Marvelous moment in
Technical difficulties. Here we go.
that marvelous moment for me in the book when I'm talking about what do we teach our children about love? What is the miseducation we give them? And part of the miseducation we give them is that you can violate someone and then say you love them. Which doesn't mean to say that I'm not saying the discipline is important, because discipline is crucial to any true love. That we have boundaries, that we set boundaries. So that I think part of what's happened to us as a nation is we have confused discipline with a kind of blind obedience to authoritarianism, whether it's children to parents or us to a government or a nation that is acting in a way that is autocratic and wrong.
So I'll read this. Bell Hooks proposes that if we all came to the agreement that love is a verb,
love has to
what
do
would
with
change?
Respect. When we look at children, particularly the violence of children against children in our nation right now, part of what we're seeing is a lack of care, a lack of respect, a lack of understanding. We're seeing envy. I mean, envy is a crucial emotion connected to greed, and that you want to destroy what you envy. When you have a 10-year-old kid wanting to destroy another kid because that kid is more popular, or that is something deep and profound. That is a deep and profound lovelessness. And we can't just talk about it in relationship to what parents are doing. We have to talk about it in terms of what we have been saying as a nation, what matters to us as a nation. One of the things I say in the book is that there can be no love without justice.
You know, there's a line in George Bernard Shaw, and I'll conclude with this. It says, must another Christ die in every generation to save those who have no imagination? As you talk of love, you have great imagination, Bell Hooks.
So you're already using ChatGPT, and while that's awesome, there is...
Apologies. Okay, so we got the last line, and then you started to hear him at the end talking about George Bernard Shaw, and it was saying, does another Christ need to die in each generation for those who have no imagination? All right, so we're almost to the end of it. Let me go from the current slide. I wish there was an easier way to do this. Maybe Keith can show me an easier way next time I do this. But so the question here, what if staying in the struggle is how we learn to love more truthfully? What if staying in the struggle is how we learn to love more truthfully? And if you look at the writing of Bell Hooks, she talks about care, commitment, knowledge, responsibility, respect, and trust. And then she also says there can be no love without justice. Would anyone agree with that? There can be no love without justice. So here's one of the second to last slides. Struggle doesn't mean the end of faith. It may be where faith becomes honest. The question again, what if staying in the struggle is how we learn to love more truthfully? There can be no love without justice. So the final question for all of us this morning, where is this stirring in you right now? What are you holding? What are you questioning? What are you beginning to see differently? And so we're going to end with a little, I'm going to pass the mic around again because I really want to hear from everybody, but I'm curious when it comes to the book, when it comes to some of the clips that we looked at this morning, where is this stirring in you right now? What are you holding today? What are you questioning? What are you beginning to see differently? Anyone want to break the ice and go first? Yeah, Gloria.
In the last year or two, what's really getting to me is the state of the world. I mean, I'm happy here at All Saints, and luckily right now my family is in good shape. So my worries are about what's happening in the world. And what I've learned over the past year is God didn't cause any of this. He gave us the ability to live a good life, and Jesus gave us the rules. And if you're other religions, you might believe in other prophets, Muhammad, who all of them said similar things. And what I've learned now is I have faith in the people. And I am so filled with tears when I watch the people from Minnesota and how they have come together as a family. They're feeding each other, they're caring for each other. That the message is we are the change. We are the ones who must take up the faith, love each other, and fix this, because other leaders are not going to do that. It's up to us. That's what I struggled with, and now I feel like I'm coming out of the mist, and I found something that works. So I don't know what that has to do.
I'll pass it to Deb. All right, Deb, you're next.
Kind of a tag along to that. When you first asked us at the beginning about faith and something that we'd struggled with, I don't exactly equate faith with lack of struggle, because God is not the one that usually comes into question for me. So often when I struggle, it's my own self that I doubt. And so when I think about where our country is struggling and the world is struggling right now, it's always, what could I do? I'm not doing enough. So I don't know if that made any sense, but that's kind of where my struggle is at right now.
Absolutely. Thank you, Deb. All right, let me pass it to Cindy over here.
My struggle has been with self-righteousness, because I see so much injustice, and I'm wondering, what is wrong with that other side or other sides? And then I remember a bishop in Minnesota many years ago said, I look for the face of God in those that I disagree with, because everyone has their own perspective and reality. And what we have to remember is, I am someone's enemy, whether it's because I'm a woman or because I'm non-white. And there's a reason for it. It's not my reality, but it's theirs. So I need to look for the face of God, because we are all God's creatures. But my struggle, and hopefully it's been resolved with the readings and additional things that we've been doing through Sacred Being and Sacred Ground, and now Sacred Community Circles, will be restoring. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Jose Luis.
Well, I was negative before. I believe personally, not in Argamenon, but I believe personally in the love of God and the Creator. And what he said, my friend here, if we know the other religions, all the religions, we see all the more primitive, the Buddhists, and they are going, and also the primitive, they are going to look for the same Creator. And the moment you know your neighbor, you love your neighbor, which is Jewish, Buddhist, Muslims, Mormon, anyone, all are going to the, for me, I believe if we start thinking in the creation is for everybody. And I have reading a lot now about that. Finally, all the creations believe in a supreme, also the Masons and the atheists, believe in a supreme creator. They call different manners, different things. And I believe that is a thing that got to change. And as he said, if we, as a community, are going bigger and bigger, and the young people, when you see one of the things I pray each day for the young people here, because that is the future of the church. Me, maybe 1 year, 1 month, 3 months, I don't know. But that is the future of the church.
Yeah, let me say one thing other, in that one of the problems with the struggle that's going on right now is it divides us in such horrible ways. I said that the way to get through this is to be together with everyone, because we're all going through this together anyway, whether we like it or not. So, but to do that, connect up with my family right now. One of them is Christian nationalists, and the other ones are born again. It is, how do you approach that in a positive, how do you even begin to say, hi, I'd like to have a conversation with you? I'm afraid of what they believe. I really don't know, because we don't talk about it. So it's very difficult.
So this idea, scarred by struggle, transformed by hope. It's in the title of the book. And I was thinking about how here we are in Lent. We're in this time where we might be living in a season where it feels like we're scarred by struggle. And we're struggling to actually feel transformed by hope. We're struggling to lean into hope. I mean, I know I am struggling to lean into hope on a daily basis. And so even after the 7:30 service this morning, I was talking with parishioners about how sometimes it feels like we're hanging on by a thread. I was talking with some folks that are in the process of trying to rebuild their home after the fires and all the work that goes into that. And so we just talked about how some days it feels like you're just barely holding on. And then you have everything that's going on in the world on top of that. You have what's happening in the Middle East. You have what's happening in this country. You have the fears about the upcoming election. You have, all these things that we can point to that are making us feel afraid, that are making us feel afraid of our neighbors. And so I think we're kind of living in a Good Friday season. And I think the temptation when we're in a Good Friday season is that we want to rush through it. We don't want to sit in the pain because it's so freaking uncomfortable, right? It's just painful. Like we want to get past us. We want to feel better again. But I think what I'm learning through sisters like Sister Joan Chittister is that the only way out is through. The only way out is to actually go through the experience, to actually sit in the pain, to sit with the questions, to sit with the longing. And I'm just wondering what that is like for all of you in this season in terms of the prayers that you're praying, the mantras that you're saying to yourself over and over again. How are you keeping hope alive, even in this time when we're so aware of the struggle? Is there anything that we could end with in terms of, from our group here today, what you're doing to seek after hope, even if you're not feeling hopeful, but you're wanting to feel hopeful? Anyone have any thoughts on that? Cindy?
Hope is a 4-letter word, which I use a lot, and another one that I love to use is self-care. You know, a lot of us go, because what we do feels important to us, and it is important. But if we deplete ourselves, we're not good to ourselves or to the people around us, you know, especially those that are our loved ones. So self-care is one. The other is, I don't know if you're aware, but in the main office is this wonderful devotional, which is also free online, and Forward Movement was its old name. But go get a copy, because there are 3 different people. It is an Episcopal, it goes with Episcopal liturgy. So if you read it, you're ready for today. You don't have to go, now what's the gospel today? What's the New Testament? Anyway, it's there. And the writers are wonderful. Each person takes a month, and it's a quarterly. And I find a lot of good in that. And then also, I have 4 devotionals I'm reading. That's how much backup I need right now. And so, you know, whoever's spoken to you in the past, then maybe it's time to revisit him or her. Yeah. Oh, an action, a plug. If next Saturday, if you go online, right, No King Day, it's Alhambra, it's Monterey Park, it's Pasadena, Glendale, morning, afternoon, all sorts. And Jonathan is our contact person. I'm not walking from PCC at 11 o'clock. Sorry. Been there, done that, too old. But at 12 o'clock, according to AFT, 12:30, according to our bulletin, the rally is right here at City Hall. And we're going to go to Target downtown.
Thank you, Cindy. All right, I think we got time for a couple more. Sandy?
I'm reminded of an Elizabeth Barrett Browning poem. It goes, "Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul, sings a song without the words, and never stops at all."
That was lovely. One last thought before we go? Yeah, please.
So who is the Indian woman? Was that Arundhati Roy? Yeah. Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, that's what I read some of her books. Okay. Well, I'm a caregiver sort of for my husband who has multiple sclerosis and cancer, metastatic medullary thyroid cancer, which he had a thyroidectomy in 1995 and then came back in 2021. He had to have part of his right lung removed. Anyway, long story short, the cancer is stable, but he's having difficulties with the MS, so that's kind of like a daily thing that sometimes he needs help, sometimes he doesn't, but it's a struggle.
Okay, so I want to end with the prayer that we started with, especially for you who didn't hear it. God dwells in you. Let us pray. Finally, great God, give us the kind of faith in you that was the mainstay of those before us who followed you, from Galilee to Jerusalem, doing good, raising the dead to life, and singing Alleluia along the way. God of conscience, God of courage, give us whatever grace we need to work for the coming of the reign of God, now, here, and always. Amen. God bless you all.